My friends and I had just won the biggest coding competition of our lives. We won $5,000, first place twice at our school's biggest hackathon competitions, which were coding competitions. And this is the story of how we turned our hackathon ideas into actual software startups. I'll tell you about all the lessons that we learned along the way competing in our school's startup incubators so that if you want to create your own AI software startup in the future, you can learn from my mistakes and lessons so you can get to your goals quicker. And if you want to know what actually ended up happening to our company, watch till the end of the video to find out. And you'll notice the story I'm about to tell you is going to follow exactly how this famous startup creation curve goes. A year ago in 2023, we saw countless startups being funded millions of dollars at billion-dollar valuations that all used the magic marketing word
AI. It uses AI to bring AI.
If Mark Zuckerberg could build a tech giant from his college dorm, then we believed we could too, as that's the expectation that he kind of created for all future computer science majors. So my friends and I decided to give it an honest try. Unfortunately, the Silicon Valley mantra of dropping out of Stanford and becoming a 20-year-old self-made billionaire is kind of an unrealistic expectation to have. It's not very productive in helping you, and that kind of pressure only makes you feel worse about yourself. So my friends and I took a more healthy approach as we decided to come up with ideas. Before I tell you the emotional roller coaster that my friends and I went on the past year, I wanted to give you an important lesson that I learned throughout my startup journey, and you'll see how this lesson keeps appearing many, many times. So last week, I attended New York Tech Week, and after speaking with hundreds of startup founders, I learned that the quality of the market you choose to build in is often way more important than the quality of execution that you have in your idea. I watched incredibly talented, hardworking people spend years of their life working on ideas in tough markets with little to show for it. Conversely, I've seen less talented, less hardworking people achieve incredible success by being in the right market at the right time. Andrew Rea. If you really want to make a startup, you have to be very particular about the market you choose and how fast it's growing, because you want to be able to ride that market's growth. Like, you can think of like a swimmer versus Michael Phelps in a race. If a swimmer, just any person off the street, is carried by a tsunami, they're going to win 100 times out of 10 against Michael Phelps. And the same idea comes from when you're choosing a market. And the tsunami my friends and I chose to swim in was
big data, machine learning, blockchain, artificial intelligence.
After my friends and I had won the 2 hackathons in spring of 2023, we started working on our first idea, Donator Pro. And the idea was that we wanted to use machine learning to help you more optimally donate clothes to your local donation centers based on AI forecasting for demand. That way you could donate to donation centers that were expected to have more need than others. We spent a good couple months building out our MVP and the AI model powering it. And keep in mind, we were all working full-time software engineering internships, so we spent basically all our free time after work and on weekends meeting up and working on our idea to get our first MVP built. However, after meeting all the people at the local donation centers around us, we quickly found out that they didn't have the data we needed to actually train our AI model. And honestly, they didn't really care that much about our idea, so we kind of knew we had to pivot. So we decided to use the same machine learning based forecasting model that we spent the past couple of months developing, but instead use it for restaurants. And we wanted to use the model to forecast future demand so that the restaurants can more optimally order food, so that they don't waste food, and also so that they can save money on food that they didn't need. That way we can help these restaurants reduce food waste and also save money and increase profit margins. And the big reason that we wanted to pursue this idea was because we knew that there was a startup called Guac that we saw get into Y Combinator, and they basically did the same thing as us, but for grocery stores. So we knew these small businesses had the data we needed to train our model on, and they also got funding for. So we kind of had the validation we needed to pursue this idea. After spending the past summer talking to family members and all the restaurant owners in our area, we actually found out that these restaurants had food wastage problems, especially with seafood and alcohol, since they're very expensive to order, and seafood also has a very low shelf life because it expires so quickly. As we started to gain real traction from our idea, we applied for our first startup pitch competition in our college, and it was kind of a smaller pitch competition. It was online, but we wanted to at least give it our best shot, and we made a logo and named our company IOTA, because we wanted to help restaurants reduce their waste down to an iota.
I'm looking for a man in finance. Trust fund. 6'5", blue eyes. Finance, 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 finance.
To our surprise, we actually won this competition, and we got $3,000 in pre-seed funding for our idea, along with connections to top restaurant owners in the city, bringing our company's total capital to $8,000, which was basically an entire year's worth of rent for us that we were all putting into a single idea, which we thought was absolutely insane.
Stand next to this money like, hey, hey, hey. Shake, 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 your money make good.
We also got space in our school's incubator in order to work with and connect with other student founders at our college. That way we can learn kind of secrets and things from them that you couldn't really find online and learn from their own experiences. And from this win, we kind of figured out that angel investors and VCs are really investing in the founders more than the actual idea themselves, because they understand the game that the founders are probably going to pivot multiple times, but what's going to be consistent is the talent and the hard work of the founders. So as much as you are selling your idea, your product, you are more importantly selling yourself. My two friends and I were a pretty balanced team. We were really good friends, and we were already taking the same classes together, so it made collaboration really easy to do. And we all had complementary skill sets across different parts of software development that we picked up in our previous internships. For example, one of my friends was really good at front-end UI, UX, and logo making. Another friend was really good at back-end engineering and sales. I was really good at machine learning side, so we kind of all worked together, and things worked out pretty well. So as the summer ended, we came back from our internships ready to work on our idea and get very serious about it. And we were preparing for an even bigger competition that was going to happen in the fall called Startup Fest. And this competition was so big that we knew that if we won this competition, we would receive possibly $10,000 or $20,000 in funding, as well as completely change the entire trajectory of our company and our college lives. This was a game-changing competition to win. And ever since we watched it freshman year, we saw an older friend of ours won this competition. He won first place as well with an AI software startup idea. So we wanted to do the same thing. And so then we spent the next couple months preparing our pitch and working really hard at this idea. We had such an enormous amount of momentum we used from winning that pitch competition, as well as the 2 hackathons a few months ago. And we took that and used it to build our website, our demo, and our pitch deck for this competition. And we spent about 2 months preparing all the materials and everything, and eventually went on stage and pitched our idea. And everything went pretty smoothly. We had pretty good responses from the judges, and so we waited a couple of hours to hear the results from the competition, and we really hyped ourselves up for them. And keep in mind, this was a competition that we really wanted to win. We dreamed of winning since we were freshmen. And we heard some good news in that out of the 50-ish or so companies that competed, ours made it to the top 10 in the final rounds, where we had to pitch our company again a second time to the judges, basically addressing any of their previous concerns about our idea. And since we knew the competition, we got into the top 10 place in the competition itself was also AI themed, so that also gave us an edge. And we knew the judges gave us pretty good reviews, as well as a bunch of other things. We had so many signs pointing to us winning this competition. We were so 100% confident that we were going to win and take home the $10,000 or $20,000 that they were going to give us. But when the judges announced the winning teams, our names weren't called, and we felt pretty defeated, honestly. We lost a lot of confidence and self-esteem that day, seeing our friends win $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for their ideas when we knew we had a pretty good proven idea that fit all the categories. We basically did everything right. We sacrificed grades, preparing for internships, social lives, really everything for this idea, and the judges just didn't like it. And after speaking to our 3 judges that after the competition, we learned that 2 of them really liked it and were pretty on board with it. However, one judge, one stingy guy, just really hated it for some reason and told us an important point that was a really big lesson we learned, in that restaurants in general operate on 3 to 4% or so margin, which is too low for most restaurants to even exist and operate in the first place, let alone be able to buy our high-tech AI software that we were going to charge them a couple $100 a month for. So we kind of learned that there was this really, really big hole in our company's plan, and it was such a big hole that we couldn't really fix it. So this is kind of back to the idea earlier where we should have chosen a growing market that was riding a wave. And we thought that the post-COVID wave of growth of restaurants was good, but it's not really that comparable compared to other waves. And even if there's more competition in a larger market, there's still some market share that we can gain as opposed to restaurants, which weren't really profitable enough for us to be able to implement our idea in. So in the winter, we completely scrapped our idea. And for inspiration, we looked to Instagram. So we saw this one guy in our feed get basically all the girls in his class to download this one app that he made, which was called Tinder for Clothes. From seeing his success, we reminded ourselves that we were college students and we had an enormously large social network that we wouldn't have when we graduate. So we wanted to use that social network to probably have much better luck at creating a B2C startup as opposed to a B2B startup. And none of us had the industry connections for a really solid B2B startup anyway, just yet. One problem that we saw with a lot of our friends is that they couldn't decide what to eat. So we decided to make Tinder for food. The idea is that just like swiping through hot people in your area, you can swipe through hot menu items from restaurants near you that are open, and you can have a machine learning algorithm in the back end kind of help you decide what to eat for dinner by giving you more recommendations tailored to what you swiped on in the past. So we thought this was a solid idea. We spent another couple months building this out, and we learned kind of how to do mobile development, which the previous idea was a web app. And we even got a fourth friend of ours to help us in learning how to build the front end for this app. However, at the time, we were all in our junior year. So a major roadblock we faced was that we decided to take multiple 300, 400 level computer science classes. And when midterms week came along, we very quickly understood and realized that our classes were getting unexpectedly intense. So we basically just had to put a pause on working on our idea for the second half of the semester. So springtime came along and we started our internships. We saw how widespread retrieval augmented generation was starting to be used by literally everyone that used LLMs. So we wanted to make an app on it as well. We saw how mental health was such a huge problem for students as well at the same time, and it still is. And the idea was that we wanted to kind of make a chatbot that helped you through your problems through conversations. It was kind of like a mental health therapist chatbot that used this RAG feature in order to actually read through previous memories and previous conversations you had to pull the most relevant memories and conversations you had in helping it help you. And so the best part was that this chatbot, their idea for it, had a fully end-to-end voice communication system. So you could basically just speak into your laptop and our assistant spoke back to you. This was like 2 months before GPT-4o came out and all that like nonsense with the voice assistant. So we were really confident in this idea, and we even recruited 2 more of our friends to join our team. So we ended up having 5 of us working on this idea. And now we wanted to validate it. So the same hackathon that we won first place in last year came along again. And we submitted this idea for our therapist chatbot to this competition, and we used the time in the hackathon to actually build out the app. And it ended up being a really cool looking app with a really nice front end. It had a 3D avatar that was talking, and it was really, really cool. All the stars, again, really aligned in our effort, in our favor for winning. The judges that we presented to, they all really liked our idea. One of the judges even said that like his wife, this was exactly what his wife was looking for, and that he felt like this could help out people in his family. And we were really confident this idea had something. You'll start to notice how the stars aligning in your favor is a common theme. Unfortunately, we ended up not even placing top 3 in the competition. We realized that the judges didn't care about RAG or anything to do with the back end of the code or anything to do with our software. They kind of just saw our idea at first glance as another ChatGPT clone, which we knew it wasn't. It had so many more features, but if you're judging 50 other projects at once and you're your team has like 3 minutes to present you the idea, you're kind of forced to judge a book by its cover. And so we didn't really get what we were hoping out of the competition. So our 2 friends that we recruited ended up leaving our team because they didn't believe in our idea. And as things got worse, or after those 2 friends left, our team, we ended up actually just disbanding and stopped working together. The sleepless nights we spent in that hackathon kind of made us so exhausted, and we just felt so defeated. And with our hackathon loss, basically our startup died. We went from winning our school's largest coding competitions last year to losing twice this year. And I think the hardest part about back-to-back losses is it just so happens that whenever you're losing, everyone around you seems to just be winning while you're losing. And at the same time of our hackathon loss, we saw how much more successful other students in our major were. They were getting entire news articles written on our college's website. They won the Goldwater Scholarship while we struggled to find good research to do. We had friends get into Google and Amazon, which we struggled to even get interviews from. And really our school and our community shoving in our faces how much more successful other people were in our major and in our school and how we were not. We felt like social media kind of really hurt us in this way. Look, not even LinkedIn, Instagram, not even Snapchat was safe, right? We kind of felt like our 1-year journey of trying to get our idea to life kind of ended up in nothing. And we felt really depressed about the time we sunk into our idea because we could have spent that time preparing for coding interviews. We could have been grinding leak code coding questions to have maybe a higher chance at getting into big tech during a really tough market like this. And our self-esteem just ended up being at a low point, probably the lowest point that I've ever felt in my college career.
When you had that third failure in a row, did you think, I need to pack this in?
Never.
Why not?
I don't ever give up.
So many things go wrong when you're starting a company, and often I think people ask, what mistakes should you avoid making? And my answer to that question is don't even bother trying to avoid mistakes because you're going to make tons of mistakes, right? And the important thing is actually learning quickly from whatever mistakes you make and not giving up.
And so you got to choose something that's incredibly hard to do, and that thing that's hard to do discourages a whole bunch of other all by itself because the person who's willing to suffer the longest wins. And so we choose things that are incredibly hard to do. And you've heard me say pain and suffering a lot. And it's actually a positive attribute. People who can suffer are ultimately the ones that are the most successful.
Elon Musk blew up 13 rockets before SpaceX succeeded in its first rocket launch. Abraham Lincoln lost, I think, 12 elections before becoming president. And Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. The most successful people that we look up to often faced years, 5 to 10 years of failure and difficulty, and they succeeded because they just didn't give up. Creative endeavors I see often follow a very exponential growth curve. Initially, the progress is slow, and you feel bad with your results because you expect them to be linear. But with the amount of effort you put in, with persistence, it starts to accelerate faster and faster at a way higher amount than you ever could with a linear growth. I'm still going to pursue entrepreneurship, and whether that be making YouTube videos again or trying out another startup idea, I feel like this is the best time in my life to try out different ideas to see what works. And even if they don't work out, I still have a lot of fun while doing them, and I learn a lot of useful knowledge that I can apply elsewhere, especially to other teams I work on in the future. And really, at the end of the day, I just want to use my computer science education in the most useful and impactful way possible. And this YouTube channel is how I'm going to be documenting whatever I work on throughout my life. And I hope you find it useful and entertaining at the same time. In addition to getting more involved in AI research at my school, I've recently became the president of the AI club at my school, where I use my knowledge to kind of guide other computer science students earlier on in their career, alongside other passionate computer science students to kind of make a community where people can accelerate their learning. And this YouTube channel has been of an enormous help to that in terms of me sending out videos to other people. And Drexel AI, this video is dedicated to you guys out there. Thank you for supporting me. And as for me, I believe that my story is just getting started, and I hope yours is too. I can't wait to see what you make in the future.